And Sophia, could you see my slide one?
Yes, I can see it.
Outstanding. All right, well, here we go. Well, welcome everybody again. Thanks for joining us today. We are excited to have each and every one of you in with us for this training today. It's a lot of good information, a lot of updated information that we're going to pass along to you so you're in the know. So we'll go ahead and get rolling. We're going to talk about updating your contact information and also updating your courses in the system. We're going to talk about invoicing and receipt uploads. We're going to have some great notes today from our finance lead as well as from our program manager. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and roll through here. Please make sure your microphones are on mute. So when you log in and you're creating an account in the AI portal, this is what you're going to see. This is what you do for if you're the UAC, basically the individual who is authorized to add more people to your institution or add their what type of rights they have within the system. These are the things that you see on your side. And you're going to want to make sure that when you're selecting these items for that individual, you want to make sure that they have Army selected, make sure that they have invoicing, cool, allow student view, and also make sure that you want to click on grades there if that individual is going to be uploading grades. Because when they go through, this is what the soldier's going to see. They're going to be able to click on your profile and they're going to be able to click on your campus, your course catalog, but your contacts is what's critical because this is where they're going to go through and they're going to find out, okay, well, if I have general questions like I need to get my price quote, this is who I need to talk to. Or if I need to talk about my grades, this is the person I need to call. So you need to make sure that this information is updated and the individuals who are going to be taking care of those items have the allow students to view option there. Now, if you have someone that is just going to be uploading grades and you don't want them interacting with students and everything, you can just make sure that it's unselected for them where it says here allow student to view. So big thing with that, again, make sure that your contact information is updated. You can do that as UAC, whoever you've assigned to your institution to be able to be the main POC for Army CA. Make sure that an individual goes in and updates everybody accordingly. Now, this is also what the soldier sees when it comes to picking their selection. So they go through and they decide, okay, I want to do my airframe and power plant license. And this is one of the vendors that has popped up for it. And this is a traditional classroom that they offer and the cost. See how it shows there, just like we've been telling you guys to put your information in the system. This is how it shows up to the student, the name of the course, the cost. That's all that they see there. So if your information's not there and you haven't put your information in the system, they're not going to be able to find you. We have a lot of vendors who contact us and tell us, "Hey, we've been a part of Army CA since it was in 1.0, but our courses aren't showing up." When the system transitioned over, the only thing that transitioned over was your contact information and your vendor name. So if you have not gone in there and uploaded your courses, put the course name, remember, no bundling anymore because that's no longer authorized. Just put the course name, put the cost. That's all you need to put in there. That way, when the soldier goes through and they're looking for who they want to participate with, they can see that option available to them and they'll be able to select it accordingly. Any questions on that before we move over to viewing pending cars? Sweet. All right, Sophia.
Thank you, Russell. Good morning, everyone. Glad to have you all on board. For those of you that don't know who I am, my name is Sophia Sweeney. I'm the Credentialing Assistance Program Manager as well as the Army Cool Program Manager. And I know a lot of you are waiting to hear about the updates on when you can see vendors, or not vendors, sorry, I need to drink more coffee, but when you can see the students show up for you prior to actual payment. And so we finally have that ready. Let me see, there's a question in the chat. What if there is an error on existing certification title in the Excel version you circulated with this invitation? Okay, I guess we'll address that, or Russell, you can address that one. I'm not really sure what this one's about, but so to figure out who is pending for payment, you would log into the AI portal, right? Next slide, please. And then from here, everyone, if you have the ability to, check invoices, do grades or anything like that, your homepage should have the invoicing box, right? So if you don't have it, but you know that the UAC did give you those permissions, or you are the UAC, just make sure you submit a help desk ticket within the AI portal, because they're going to have to add that to your account. Okay, that is, it's supposed to appear, but if it doesn't, well, then that's a technical issue that we cannot assist you with. So please make sure you check that. Next slide, please. Okay, so from here, you're going to click on online services up in that top tab. And then from there, scroll down to manage invoices. Next slide. And then right here, you're going to see partner systems. Now, if you happen to be a partner for the Air Force, or you do MyCAA, this partner system there might be 3 or just 2 blocks. You just want to make sure you select the Army Ignited, just the Army Ignited button. Next slide, please. And then you're going to click on the status drop down and select pending payment. Next slide. All right, from here, you're going to see a list, or maybe 1 or 2, maybe none, right? So from here, you're going to see that these soldiers, or there's pending soldiers. In order to view those, you'd have to click on each one of them. But this just means that they're pending, right? That doesn't mean that they're being paid yet. We have, or ACAPO has already moved them to finance for payment. So you have like a little bit of time to see who is going to be funded. And again, we're probably about 2 to 3 weeks ahead. So you will have at least 2 to 3 weeks ahead to know who's coming to take your class. Or if you see somebody that you have no idea who they are, you're able to reach out to them and say, hey, we need to, you need to register or do whatever, without payment, of course. But this is one of the ways. Next slide, please. So if you clicked on that, you would see those. But this is the second way to view. There's 3 different ways to view any pending cars, right? And so this is the second way. You go right to online services. You're going to hit print documents. Next slide, please. And then you're going to see all these boxes. You're going to see on the box, it'll say like 2 courses, or, for National Guard or active, or, reserve. You can click on all of them if they have a course, right? So just click on, one at a time. And next slide. From there, you're going to see a document number. That document number is the actual CA request number that we have in the system. So you can always just, use that when you're trying to, talk to the soldier about a specific CA request, like, oh, it's CA request number or whatever, right? So all these pending courses are going to show up right here. You see they have term dates. There's a soldier's name, and then the cost. If something is different, well, then, obviously you can contact that soldier to, to let them know that, hey, look, your term dates are off. Is that on purpose? And sometimes they do want to extend it out a little further to give themselves a little time. So it's totally up to you. I'm going to pause here so I can read these questions. That's a great question, Martha. Do we receive a notification when there's a new pending car, or do we have to monitor the system? And the answer is you have to monitor the system. Okay, there is not going to be a notification other than it just shows up in your queue. Josh asked, does invoice pending mean invoice will be paid, or is there a chance that it will still not get paid? That is another great question. You're right. There is a possibility it won't get paid, right? Depending on the situation. Maybe that soldier is good to go up until the time that finance is going to make payment, and then they drop the course, or they become flagged, or some other issue, right? So there's always a chance, but at least you have some visibility of who's going to come, or who's looking to start your class. Billy said, I do invoicing for the university and must create an invoice to see as pending review. Do cars automatically populate? Yes, so please don't look at this on the TA side, right? TA and how they do things is different than the way we do things on the CA side. The invoice is created by finance. This is just a way for you to see, who is, or we're just trying to figure out ways for you to be able to see who's pending for your, for pending payment, right? So finance will still create the invoice and so forth, and you'll see that here in the future slides. Okay. Where can we see existing cars? So Kristen, another great question. So you can see existing cars when they show up in your grades queue. That's totally separate from here. You will not see them until they show up there. Okay, now that is something we're still trying to get done, and will happen eventually, where they will show up as soon as, right after they've been paid, whatever, right? So that's coming. It's just not here yet. Okay, last one I'll take so that I can move on. Josh said, per Army policy, we are not supposed to let students start a class in this until they are paid. If they have a pending invoice with an accurate start date and they are still not yet paid before class, can we let them start? Great question, Josh. The answer is no. Unless they have been funded, you cannot let them start the class. Okay, they must be funded. So again, these are just here so that you can see. Oh yeah, that's absolutely a great question for everybody to understand and know. Just because you see them here doesn't mean they can start. It's just giving you visibility. But you cannot let them start until finance pays that course. All right, so last note here, and I'm not sure if I even said it, but once finance does create that invoice, this will disappear from this queue. So you will no longer see this person here once they create that invoice. Next slide, please. So when you do click on that car number, that's the invoice number that populates, or document number, whatever it was called, you will see their Army Credentialing Assistance Request form, right? And down at the very bottom, in the bottom right corner, you'll see their CA, I think it was right there. Yeah, the CA number. But one thing I wanted to point out is you can now see their phone number and their email. Similar to the way it was in the old system, this is what you'll see. You'll see the training course, the dates, the cost, and so forth, right? And you can also see towards the bottom middle, right? It'll kind of show you that ACAPO concurs pending finance payment, right? It says you are not authorized to start basically until finance makes that payment, all right? So that tells you right there, this is just a pending car, right? It has not been paid yet. Okay, so any questions here? You can raise your hand or you can type in the chat. Go ahead, Christine.
I have a question. I'm looking at one right now and the start and end date are incorrect. How do and I did email the soldier asking about that, but on this form, it's still incorrect.
Okay, so so if it's still incorrect, Do you know that they actually had it changed?
I emailed them to change it, but apparently from what I'm clicking on here, it's not been changed.
Okay, so two things with that. It could be that it doesn't change on the paper, so I'm not 100% sure, but that is a great question for us to ask. If we make those changes in the system, will it change their CA request that you get to view? I'm not sure, Christine, but I'm glad you asked that question because I'm writing it down so that I can take it back and see what the answer is on that one.
Thank you.
Does it change? No problem. So let me see. Okay, does it change the date? So the other thing is to make sure that you ask the SODR, did they contact ACAPO via Army Ignited messaging to ask them to change the date if it was like different, right? Just confirm with them that they contacted ACAPO because just because they say they did it doesn't mean they did it. And if they talk to an ed center, that didn't do it, right? The only people that can make any changes to anything for CA is ACAPO. Ed centers do not have a role in this whatsoever. So that's something that, we hear a lot, like, well, the ed center said, well, unfortunately, the ed center doesn't process, pay, change dates, add grades to anything CA. Okay, so just that's what I'd ask that you do, is just confirm with them that they did do that. And then JB asked, do SODRs see this progression, the way they know where they stand? JB, I'm not sure I understand. I'm not sure what you mean by do they see their progression? Do you have a mic? If so, please feel free to join in. Can they see this move to pending? Yes, they can absolutely see when we move something to pending payment, it appears in their account as ACAPO concurs, just like that down at the bottom where that initial, and it has a little box in there that says ACAPO concurs pending finance payment. They absolutely see that same thing in their accounts. And Amanda asked, will be able to get an I for situations where they're almost complete, but need a small extension of time. So Amanda, no, you all will not have the ability to add an I, but if a soldier wants to request an incomplete, if it's more than a year, we are not going to allow for an incomplete, okay? They have 1 calendar year to complete it, and that's per policy. So there's only one instance where ACAPO will add an I upon request from a soldier via Army Ignited messaging, and that's going to be if it was a course that was transitioned from Army Ignited 1.0 to 2.0, right? That's the only time we would add an I, because they are unable to, the system doesn't allow us to make changes to Army Ignited 2.0 from 1.0. So we have no other choice but to add an I and give them a suspense. That's the only time we would add that. And it would, again, that would be if they still had enough time left on their per policy, right? So, all right, moving on, please, next slide. The third option to viewing pending CARs is from the home page. You could click on school, scroll down to reports. Oh, and this is just a side note because I've been asked this question before. This right up top, you can see where it says Air Force Cool. It's like in a pink box, required action. If you're not an Air Force vendor, there's no need to do anything there. That is specific to Air Force only. Again, we share this portal with the Air Force, but if you see it, don't worry about it. Just let it go unless you're working with Air Force, okay? Nikki asked, good morning all. When is this new process going live? That is a great question, Nikki. And the new process will go live on 28 March. That's next week, Tuesday. Okay, next week, Tuesday. All right, so on this page, after you clicked on that one reports page, you just want to make sure the partners system says Army Ignited. Okay, right up there. And then, so I connected this page because it's kind of big. And so you might see something that looks double. If it doesn't look exactly like this on your screen, don't worry. It's just because I had to cut and paste a second part to this. But you just scroll down to the very bottom, and then you're going to click on Generate Reports. Next slide. From here, it's going to list all your courses, okay, that are pending, payment for your school. Now, if you happen to be an AI, you're going to see TARS here as well, okay? But you just want to make sure you look for training or exam when it comes to CA, because ours is going to say training or exam. TARS are going to appear as TARS. Again, if you do have multiple accounts, they will appear here. So again, this is totally up to you which way you want to go when it comes to viewing pending cars. Just you have options now, so feel free, whatever works best for you, to be able to use those. Next slide, please. All right, so before we move on, is there any questions about how you can view pending cars? And just remember, as some of you just might have just came in, know that if you see a pending car, that does not mean they can start. They are not able to begin a course until it is paid by finance, okay? That is the only time an actual car is approved, and that is when finance makes that payment. Okay? So any questions? Nothing so far? All right, so we now get into the invoicing part. All right, so from the home page, you're going to click on the online services and then click on manage invoices. Okay, from here, again, make sure the partner system says Army Ignited. And then you're going to pull from the status dropdown, click on processed in status. Okay, so processed, that is what you're going to click on. Next slide. From there, you'll hit search. Next slide. And then you will be able to click on every individual invoice number, right? And then you'll be able to see the details. Go ahead and next slide, please. From here, you're going to click on payment. I think I might have screwed that one up, but go ahead, next slide. And then you're able to download the authorization letter, okay? And this is the important part. So download the authorization letter, next slide. And this is what it looks like. Here you're going to find the credit card information for that one student or multiple students, whatever. I think it's just individual. Sandy can correct me if I'm incorrect, but this is where you're going to find this information. Know that you only have, once you get this, 48 hours to process your payment, or it will be declined. Okay, so make sure you pay attention to the queue and quickly make that payment. All right, on the second page, you will see the document ID. That's the car number again, the student's name, the course, whether it's training or exam, dates, and then the amount. Go ahead, Sandra.
Sorry about that. I'm almost confused. Apologize for that. You just said 48 hours, but is this going to be sent to us, or do we have to go to the system to see it?
You're going to have to go to the system. So
well, then how do I'm sorry, Sophia, I got to be a little bit frustrated here. So every day I check the system 4 times a day to see whether or not you guys are going to send an invoice for payment. I apologize, but I don't have that type of time.
And I understand. Totally understand. But unfortunately, we cannot continue the process that has been going on with finance. Uh, they are very shorthanded, and this will speed up the process so that SODERs can get paid cars as soon as possible, right?
I apologize. I'm going to interrupt and say I don't disagree that, you know, it's been brutal for you guys,
Mhm.
but you're asking me to do something. All I'm asking is for the system to just send me notification. Just say, go
Sorry
check.
for jumping here, but the Army and the Air Force, when there is an invoice paid, they usually send, I don't know if it's an automated, I believe so, an email. Isn't this the same process? Wouldn't you think that we will also be getting an email? It's a very simple that says there is a new payment, here's the invoice number. So this will be completely different?
Yeah, I will ask the question whether you actually get notification or not. So I got that written down.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Sophia, can I interrupt?
Yes, please.
This is Sandy Claiborne. I'm the supervisor of finance. Sophia, I just wanted to mention the vendors are able to print something off knowing what when service members have course start dates, correct?
Yes, that is
Okay,
true.
thank you.
Yeah, so that's a great point, Sandy. So you guys do have a heads up of approximately when, you know, within those couple of weeks that they will be paid. So yes, unfortunately, you're going to have to check the system. And again, I will ask the question is if you will, you know, get notification. Okay. Oh boy, hold on. Let me let me answer some of these questions in the chat real quick before I take the next person online on the mic. All right. So are we still getting emails from finance? And the answer is no. That is no longer going to have happen. And Kevin asked, are we still getting calls still? The answer is no. You will not be getting calls. Everything will be done through the system. Billy asked, for TA, we can only invoice once per term. Is there a max number of times we can invoice, or is this my students in the queue? So again, this is not TA side. We're not, it doesn't operate this way. However they do things, right? So this is just going to appear in your queue daily if there is a number of, you know, students that will be, you know, taking your course. And so Kristen asked, so we'll have to check the system daily. And the answer is yes. Lori asked, so no one will be calling us for payment anymore. The answer is no. Kristen, can you at least set up a system to automate an email? I'm gonna ask that question, Kristen, and I'll get back to you because hopefully that will be, you know, the case, okay? Not 100% yet. Sue asked, we close on Fridays at 3. What happens if one comes in after 3 and I don't see it until Monday morning? It will be a 48-hour, Sandy, this is business days, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so business days for that. Does 48 hours. So that answered your question as well, Amanda. Business days, not days. Okay, Martha, highly recommend extending the 48 hours. I have a feeling the 48 hours will end up creating more work for you in the long run. Noted. We will discuss that, but at this point, it's going to remain at 48 hours. Okay, so that is noted. Kevin, did the process start already? The answer is no. It's going to start on the 28th of March. And then, okay, that's another question. Okay. Sal asked, I think a system notification will simplify the process and create less work for everyone. Correct, it would. I will definitely confirm and send that via email. And then Sandra noted. D. Castillo, how does this impact classes that start on 28 March? Well, that's a great question. We'll have to play this one by ear, Dana. We're not going to miss any start dates. Okay, so we will definitely work with you on that. And then Kevin, when did this process start? So I haven't checked for a week. We just missed them. Is that correct? No, it didn't. Okay, so I know you asked a couple questions, the same question. It does not start until the 28th. Okay, awesome. Thank you. All right, Rebecca, if we do miss the 48-hour windows, what happens? Unfortunately, with the amount of CA requests that we're getting, I mean, we're getting thousands, more than we ever thought we'd receive this early in the game. But so we cannot hold up progress, and we can't keep holding on and waiting for somebody to provide or answer the calls. I mean, we have given plenty of notification to several, I mean, you might not be one, right? But there are several vendors that don't answer their calls and wait till, days later before they ever respond. You're holding up soldiers. So unfortunately, if it has to be that if you didn't make that payment or that time frame, then finance will have to reject. Okay, let me see. And the last question will come from Holly before I answer whoever's got their hand up. I have not been able to get into our Army Ignited account since the new system has started. Have asked for help multiple times, so I won't be able to see any of this because I cannot get into the account. If you cannot get into the account, you need to contact or send a help desk message ASAP to through the AI portal. And if they are not answering you, then you can email us with your case number so that we can reach out to BAM and ask what's going on and why haven't you been asked or answered. Okay, so please email. Okay, you've emailed our team as well, Holly? If not, please forward the message. You can put my name on there, right, on the email, and we will make sure your stuff gets answered. Are you just emailing them? I don't know if you have a mic, Holly. All right, so Holly, please feel free. And Dottie, if you're on here, please put our emails in the chat box. All right, so I'm going to answer. I'm sorry.
I just said, will do.
Oh, thank you, Dottie.
You're welcome.
All right, so Kevin, your hand is still up?
Good morning. You told us why the credit card can only go 48 hours, but the question was, okay, you've declined it. Now what?
Then that soldier resubmits.
And the 45-day clock starts again?
Unfortunately, yes.
Whoa. Okay.
I'm sorry, Kevin. Unfortunately.
I know. I did just tell the IG get ready. That's an operational constraint that soldiers are not going to understand very well. So okay, I understand. It is what it is.
Yeah, I understand. And it is a big change. We understand that. We knew it was coming because I've told you guys before, there are some changes that are coming. I just wasn't sure when it was going to happen. The system is ready for these changes. We can't keep, if we keep holding for so long, that just further backs up finance from being able to make payments, and we just can't do that.
No, I understand completely. I mean, that's why this electronic notification that several of us are asking for is absolutely imperative, because no one is glued to a screen, because everybody multitasks, because everybody's short people. Okay, you have to have something that when you get back to your computer, you go, whoa, I got something in the queue, go in the queue and take care of it and process the card. Without that electronic notification, it's hit and miss.
Yeah, so I don't know about you, but we're all glued to our screens. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. So anyways, Kevin, I am going to ask the question. I will get back to you all, and I will make sure that we will discuss the 48 hours. Again, that was noted, and we will discuss, and more to follow on that one.
In the days of electronic programming, somebody's smart enough, if they can program this thing to put it in the queue to pay, they can also simultaneously put a prompt in the system to notify. It's a programming task.
Well, I'm not going to claim to be some type of whiz on the programming side, but if they do it on the Air Force side, if you do receive notifications, I don't see how it would be difficult to provide notifications on the Army side.
Roger. Thanks, Sophia.
No problem, sir. Sandra, did you still have a question or your hand is still raised?
No, I'll find my hand and lower it. Sorry.
Problem. So there's a question in the chat, and that is the payment approval time 45 days or 60 to 100 days? So are you talking about the CA requests, like soldiers can request how far out in advance they have to request? Because it's the day they submit, 45 days out is at least 45 days from their submission date is when they can start. Is that what you're talking about, or I'm not sure what you're asking there?
Okay, good morning, Sophia.
Good morning.
Yes, that is my question, because several soldiers lately have sent me screenshots of their portal stating that they could not upload a quote because it didn't fall within a 60 to 120 day window. And I was a little puzzled because I understood that it took 45 days for them to actually submit the request and get it through the approval process for funding.
So I would love to see those screenshots, because there's no time limit on when you can upload a quote. Now, if they're talking about they have between the time they submit that request and our team reviews to have that quote in that goal. I mean, it's not even going to go through the goal if it's missing, right? The goal won't even be approved if it's missing, but that uploading a quote, there's no time limit. So please feel free to send me a email with these screenshots so I can see. But I will tell you, maybe you're talking about grades. I mean, because there is a time limit on that one.
No, it wasn't grades, and I actually ended up submitting a ticket through the system, and I think it was resolved, but I do have a screenshot that I'll share with you.
Oh, please do, please do. I'd
Okay.
love to see that.
Okay.
That is that's pretty weird. I don't think I've seen that. So and then Jeremy asked, is the invoice payment net 30, 60, 90, 100? Again, that is a question. I'm not really sure, but Sandy, do you know what he's talking about?
No. Well, the payments made right before the course date. Oh, which question? Sorry.
Is the invoice payment net 30, 60, 90, 100?
Now, are you talking, Jeremy, about the amount of time you have to pay or
Oh, he
charge your
says
card?
referring
Yes.
payment terms.
Mhm.
You
I'm
may
not
have
sure
to
what he
just,
means.
I don't either. If you have a mic, please feel free to chime in. But if not, if you could please just send us an email, because I'm not quite sure what you mean. Okay.
Yeah, I do have a mic. I'm sorry.
Great. Okay.
My question is, once the invoice is submitted, what are the payment terms? Is the invoice to be paid in net 30 terms, net 60, 90, 100, 6 months, a year? That's what I'm trying to understand too. So once they're approved and an invoice is submitted, then how long, because if we can't enroll them before payment is made, what is the turnaround time on invoice?
So right now, like Sophia said, ACAPO is about 2 weeks ahead. So, our plan is to process those invoices as soon as we have them in our queue. So,
Okay,
I mean, yeah, so I don't think that's going to be a problem.
okay,
You'll have time to do that for sure.
thank you.
Okay. Okay. So, see, I see Dottie answered that. Tolan asked, will the payments be made right before the course start date? And it just, again, this it may be paid earlier, but it just depends, right? We're gonna start this process and see how, you know, how it goes. It could be a lot faster. And if it's a lot faster, then this was definitely a success. But we will see, Tullen. We're not 100% sure how much quicker it will be, but I assume it's going to be earlier than the start date. But per policy, finance does have until the start date to make all payments. Okay, and then Christine asked, invoice same as quote. The answer is no. We require quotes, right? So soldiers are going to require quotes to be able to submit their goals for a specific course that they want to take. So they still are going to ask you for a custom quote that they can upload for their CA request. The invoice is what Sandy and her team will create, and you will see in the system. Okay. And then let me see. All right, so I'm gonna let Dottie handle that one. Unless Dottie, you need some assistance on that.
I'm typing right now.
Okay, great. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next slide, please. So the receipts, you will also be, oh, I see one hand is up. Two hands. Kristen, I know you've had your hand up. Go ahead.
Okay, so my question, and maybe you'll be answering this as you go through the training. On my home screen, under the invoicing, I see one courses available. But I don't see that person or that car on any of the places that you just walked through us. So I'm not sure what I'm even supposed to do with that.
So you don't see them. So you see them in the boxes, right? Like that.
Yeah.
Okay, and so that could be. Russell, can you go back to a few slides where, keep going back. Keep going. Should be before here.
Yeah, here. Oops.
Oh.
I think where it says
Down at the bottom.
invoicing. Yeah. So I have one under that course available. But then when I walked through all three of the ways that you showed us that we could see the car, nothing shows up. I mean, not.
Okay,
Yeah.
so go back a few more slides, Russell. You don't see them here, right? On the school report.
Correct.
Okay, and you only see them here in invoicing?
Only on the home page in that box.
So Sandy, would that mean that you have already created the invoice, which is why they're no longer showing up anywhere else?
Yes, I believe that's what BAM told us. So once we create the invoice, they won't be able to see that information.
Okay, that's what I thought too. So if you only see it here in the invoicing box, that just means that the invoice was created by Sandy and her team or her team, getting ready to be funded, right? So again, they will contact you, however it is that they contact you, to make those payments until the 28th of this month.
Okay.
Yeah. So you'll always
but that is
know
also a place where then if I see that, then I know I should start watching the other areas to see if I need to process that payment, after the 28th, right?
Correct, right.
Okay.
If they do not show up in the other areas, you know that, hey, this is one I need to, this one's, I'm about to get paid for this one.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Kevin, did you have another question? Or is your hand just still raised? Okay, we're going to go ahead and move on to the receipts. All right, so the receipts. Once the payment's been made, it's time to upload that receipt. you'll definitely have to save that to your desktop somewhere, but you're going to find the authorization code on the receipt. And it's usually a 6 to 7 digit number, and it could be called either approval or transaction code itself. You're going to enter that information right here. Next slide, please. You're going to enter, again, like I said, the code and the date will be entered here. Next slide, please. And then you're going to select that receipt from your desktop. It's got to be a PDF. Next slide, please. And then you're just going to hit upload receipt and you're done. So at that point, this is when finance will be able to hit paid for a soldier. So go back. Thank you. Tara, I see your question. Where can we obtain a copy of the PowerPoint presentation for future reference? Okay, so I'm glad you said that. That is going to be sent here shortly after the recordings are done for the day. You will receive a copy of these slides and some other updated slides as well. So Sal asked, has adding receipts been capability been enabled? I think it is, but Sandy, do you want them to wait? You still want them to wait until the 28th, correct?
Yes, Sophia, and I actually am going to talk about that as well.
Great. Okay. Sounds good. We've got one question. Go ahead, Brenda.
Hi. My question is in relation to when we receive payment from multiple students in the same authorization. Sometimes we get 2 or 3 students that come over in the same authorization for a total amount. Are we to upload individual receipts and authorization numbers for each of them, or should they be in one PDF?
Oh, can I answer that, Sophia?
Yes.
Yes, if you can upload that in one PDF, that would be best, because our system only allows us to upload one attachment. So if you can combine all those receipts into one, thank you.
Okay, but it's still okay to run them as individual transactions under each student's account?
Absolutely. That's fine.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Standing. Okay. So we've gotten through that part. That was the brutal part. And next let me see, Nikki said, same question as Alec. Okay, we have, all right. Okay, still have not received payment. Start date was the 20th. Okay, and that is something that Sandy will note and check into, Nikki. All right. Go back 2 slides, okay. All right, how do we know if a request was rejected? How do you know if a request is rejected? So if you're not receiving it on an invoice, you're going to know that it was probably rejected. I mean, does that, I mean, that really is how you're going to know something was rejected, or, I mean, it could be coming in a future slide. Maybe the soldier changed their dates. I mean, there could be several reasons why they don't appear. But so you just have to be patient and waiting to see. Now, you may see them on the other reports, right? And maybe it wasn't invoiced yet because the dates were changed. Go ahead, Sandra.
Okay, I'm in AI, and I honestly don't know where to begin. So if I wanted to see if anything's in here, where do I go? I went to manage invoices. There's nothing in there. I've looked in Air Force and Army under both, and nothing is there, but I know I have people. So I'm confused.
Did you see the first few ways you could view whether soldiers are pending payment?
That's what I did, and I don't have anything in here, but I do have people pending payment. So maybe this isn't ready for prime time.
How do you know that they're pending payment?
Because I've invoiced them. I know they're in the system because I asked them to send me photocopies of their enrollment on their cell phone. So that's how I know that they're in the system. I've not ever seen them in the system yet. And I'm looking now.
Yeah. I'm not 100% sure why, Sandra. You can
Okay.
send us an email. You can give me a couple of names of soldiers that you're talking about, and I
Yeah,
can
we
look
can do
them up.
this later. I just was wondering if I was not looking in the right place.
No, if you looked at any one of those ways that I showed you, you should be able to see them if they're pending payment. And if they're not in the actual, if they're not in the invoice queue, because again, if they're in the invoice queue, that, can you go back a couple slides, Russell, please? Keep going, just to the home page. I want to show her the home page. Right there. So if you see them down at the bottom where it says invoicing, right, and they are there, then you know that Sandy and her team have already created an invoice, which means they're not going to be found anywhere else. They're going to only be found right here. Now, if you don't see them right here, no invoice was created for them yet. So you should be able to see them the other ways to view them. Okay. And if you're saying that you don't see them when you're searching the other ways, then I'd be interested to know who, so that I can check what their status is and then go from there. Because maybe it's an error. Maybe there is an error in the system that's not working yet. So that's why please send me some names.
Okay, so I'm actually in pending payment now. There's nothing, I get a status legend underneath, and that's it. And I'm in Army Ignited, the partner system. I'm in status, and I go to search, and there's still just one just showed up. Literally, one just showed up. Okay, now I know how to do it. So now I take that invoice number and walk it through there, right?
So what are you talking about as far as status? Okay, so you went back, you're in another way. So all you're doing, like when you go back a couple more slides, please, Russell. Okay, was it a third option or was it a second option? Keep going.
I went into what you just asked me to do. I went in from the right there above. It says manage invoices, and then I'm in the Army Ignited, and then I go into pending payments, and so I have a screen that looks like that. Yes.
Okay, so you do see this right here. So then they are just pending still. If you can see them from here, print documents or the other two ways, then they haven't, an invoice has not been created for them yet. They're just pending payment. So you were able to.
So if I can see them here, they're in what status?
They're just pending payment. Like we just moved them to finance. I'm sorry. Acapulco concurs pending finance payment. So they're going to sit here until finance creates an invoice. Once finance creates an invoice, you will no longer see them here. And you know, at that point, okay, I'm going to be contacted or I'm not going to be contacted, but I'm going to start seeing them in my invoice box as being ready to get funded.
Huh. Okay. So if I'm in managed invoices, then I go into my invoice box. So I go into invoices. So instead of status, I go to invoices, saved, pending, processed. Is that what you mean?
So, okay, go back a couple more slides, Russell. So, are you in this status right here? Did you look here?
No, I did go there, and an individual did come up just a couple seconds ago. And now I've gone from status of pending payment to the one below it that says processed.
Okay. So if it says processed, that means a invoice is being created for that. That already has an invoice created. That person is going to be paid soon.
Correct. Now my question is, it says 3/16. It would have been maybe paid last week. which then I would be way over that 2-day mark. But where do I find the where do I find it is my question. So once it gets through processing, where do I find it?
You're going to find it in the other box where I showed, like from your home page, there's the invoicing box down at the bottom. That is where you're going to find the actual invoice with the information that we just went through. Or you can, I mean, you could always go through process. Can you scroll? Can you move over now? Keep going. Keep going to the.
Okay. So I just got a red flag that says 1 course available under invoicing today. Now I can go into that. Hold on, let me go into that. And then Army credentialing, go into that. But it doesn't tell me anything about the individual. I still don't see anything about the individual.
Click. Okay, keep going, Russell. I'll show you. Keep going. Keep going. Right here. Okay, you manage invoice, or you go to that little invoicing box. Keep going. Okay, you clicked on processed. Next one. Next slide, please. Okay, you hit search. Next slide.
Right.
You hit payment. Next slide. You download the authorization letter. Once you download that authorization letter, you will see the student's information on the second page of that letter.
I got it. I understand that, but it doesn't get me there. So I am in invoice, so I have one. But it says now I need to create an invoice, or now I need to create an invoice. That doesn't make any sense.
No, okay. So I'll tell you what we'll do, Sandra. We can talk about this
Sure.
offline.
Okay.
And I think you may not have one there yet.
Okay.
So we can discuss offline.
That'd be great. And so you know what, when we get, if after this presentation, if you guys can send those slides, I can try and work it through looking at them myself before, so I can get a better handle on it. That would be great. Instead of waiting to the end of the day, maybe I can work my way through it, but I'm happy to wait to the end of the day as well. Whatever works for you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We go to answer. Okay, so Sandy, you were answering some of these questions. All right. UIW, first, when we start invoice, it goes to save. Second, pending review when we submit it and wait for the review. Third, pending payment when reviewed and waiting for the payment. Last, the invoice has been processed. It should show on the queue. Okay, I think you're giving some great instructions. All right, just to clarify, we should not go to create invoice for credentialing. Sandy, they do not want to create invoice, correct?
Absolutely not.
Okay, thank you. I was almost 100% sure, but I just want to confirm. I was getting under invoicing course available and I was creating invoices with our invoice number. I should not be doing this. No. And that was sent out before, like right now, please just leave those alone. Don't do anything with those. I know Russell sent that out in a message probably about a week and a half ago. So please don't touch those yet. What if we do not have the manage invoices option in the AI portal? Then if you are not part of the invoicing and you need to get with your UAC, if the UAC has added that permission to your account, then you need to contact the AI portal if you still cannot say the AI portal. You need to contact the help desk within the AI portal to get that to appear in your account if that UAC did in fact give you the invoice option. Okay. Sandy, Serena asked, should I delete the ones I already created?
Yes, I was gonna go over that as well, because I do see some invoices in our queue. But those will be rejected by our team since that is the TA process and not the CA process. So.
Okay, all right. So I would tell you what, let's go ahead and move to the next slide, please. And just as you've already heard, this is Sandy Claiborne. She is the finance lead for the CA side of finance. And her team is also on, so I just want to go ahead and pass it off to her. Go ahead, Sandy. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophia. So I just want to cover a couple things. So two of the main points I want to talk about is on the slide, but I just want to say that if you get an email from finance for a request for payment now through the rest of the week, we will still process that payment as we currently do with you. And that means you will see that come in as an email, or we will call you for payment. So that process will be the same. You will still email us the receipt. Finance will no longer send notifications to vendors by email starting next Monday, the 27th of March. And that's for March course start dates. CA Finance will still email you invoice for payment. Any cars with course start dates for April is what we will start invoicing you through the portal. So with that being said, I just wanted to make it very clear that since the system is already set up for you, you may get the authorization letters. If we are still creating invoices for the March start dates, please ignore those, because what will happen is if you are going to charge our credit card with any start dates of March and prior, that you will double charge the cardholder's card. So since the system's already set up that way, there's nothing we can do about that. But I just ask that you please ignore any requests for payments that are sent to the AI portal with course start dates other than April going forward. Starting Monday, you can start checking the AI portal for invoices, however you want to label it, authorization letters, requests for payments. Finance is going to do our best to generate the authorization letter. So you are aware of the request for payment at least a few days prior to the service member's start date, if not sooner. Like Sophia mentioned, ACAPO is at least 2 weeks ahead, so they should not be an issue. And also, like Sophia mentioned, CA and TA is handled differently. So again, just to really stress that schools, vendors create the invoice for tuition assistance, but finance will create the invoices for credentialing assistance. I do have some vendors who have already started to create invoices for CA and RQ. Just a reminder that that is incorrect. So do not create invoices through their AI portal. All those that you have created for credentialing assistance, our team will go in there and reject those. So that way we can clear our queue. And then I also wanted to stress a few important things to avoid any delays to the service member. Once you process payment, it's very important that you upload the receipt right away. And that is because the service member's record will not reflect a paid status until CA Finance has reconciled the payment. So basically, CA Finance will enter the invoice once you upload the receipt. So we'll enter that invoice on our end once you upload the receipt. And then what we will do is we go in there and verify the receipt is correct. And then we will reconcile that. Once my team reconciles the receipt, then the system will show as a paid status. And that's what the service member and everyone else will see, is that it has been officially paid. I also highly recommend that if you can request a service member to provide you with both their military and personal email. I know for most vendors, it is hard to distinguish between like a John Smith when you're referencing your system. So we do understand that. Our system currently does not provide service member email and invoices. So we are working on a feature enhancement to help out with that as well. So with that, if there's no questions, I'm just going to return it back to Sophia.
Okay, let's can you go back, please? Let's go ahead and open it up for questions real quick. Are there any questions for Sandy? I see one hand is up from Brenda.
Sorry, I must not have lowered it from the last time. I'm sorry about that.
Okay. No, there's Billy. Go ahead, Billy.
Yes, ma'am. I just had a question on Methodist University. So we've talked about the invoicing and receipt of payment. How will the, if we have a student drop a certification course, the refunding function, is that clearly explained, or is that different, or how is that going to work?
So the refund will still be the same as far as us requesting that refund, the ACAPO side. So you cannot refund until we contact you, like we've been doing for those that we need to request refunds for. So when we do request that, I'm going to allow Sandy to answer the question on where you're going to send those refunds back to. Go ahead, Sandy.
Yes, so once you communicate with the ACAPO team and the refund has been authorized, then you can process that at that time through the AI portal. But you have to make sure you're communicating with ACAPO first. You can't just go in there and request a refund because, you know, the service member decided not to take the course. You know, as Sophia has explained, and Ken, is that that's a process they have to do through Ignited, and the ACAPO team has to review that request.
Okay, I guess maybe maybe I didn't state that correctly. What I'm asking is, let's say the soldier dropped the course and we are going to refund the government back the money for some reason, or a portion of it.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I was just curious.
No,
if someone's got to go in and request the course be dropped, then that will then is the forcing mechanism for you guys to generate a request to the institution to do the refund. I was just curious on if we had to refund you back, the government back money, is that process something that can be done in that portal, or is it more of a manual process?
So as far as I understand, it can still be done through the AI portal. And then once you do get that approval, this helps answer your question as well. The refund will always go back to the form of payment. So whoever's government credit card that was used to process that payment, the refund will go back to that card. Unless that card holder is no longer with us, we will let you know.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Sandy? Okay. Thank you, Sandy, and thank you all for those questions. Next slide, please. And I see a question from Pat. Transition period. I've been trying to upload completion certificates from SODERS funded under old system. Should that be uploaded under new system? So the only thing you can do in the new system is add a P or an F, and you have to send those certificates of completion to the SODER themselves. If the SODER has already received the certificate of completion, they may have already added it to a message for us to give them a grade. So if you still see them in your queue, please feel free to add a P or an F in there. And then Dee Dee asked, please confirm that we don't register the SODERS until we see the status has been changed, paid by finance in the AI portal. Change to, we don't register the SODER until we see. So you should, okay, once you do.
I can ask Sophia. So I'm just curious. I know that the status will change the way we do that now when we charge the credit card and then it's reconciled by finance and they change that status to paid. Do we need to wait until finance is reconciled to register the soldier for the course?
Sandy?
Sophia, yes. I would say no. I would say once that transaction has went through and you have that authorization transaction code on the receipt, you could register that service member. Any comments on that, Sophia?
Yeah, and that's
that would be accurate.
Right, that's totally fine. And then right after that, Sandy and her team will hit paid, and so the soldier will know that they can start at that point.
Okay, I just didn't know if that had maybe changed. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. Good question. All right, so final notes for me. Again, and I stress this because we're still seeing this from some vendors. Please do not refund without a request from ACAPO. Okay, that is not okay to do. There is a process, and it's to receive funds out of the blue, not knowing all the specific details, or even if that soldier is entitled to receive any refunds on their account. That is a process. And so if you can see the CA policy, soldiers who withdraw from CA approved course or exam must do so in Army Ignited. And then from there, we will provide them the withdrawal form. And then it also states, under no circumstances will the soldier coordinate a withdrawal directly with the vendor. If this occurs, the soldier will be liable for any debt incurred. And I can't stress that enough because we still have vendors who are not listening and they are just refunding without request. This can hold a soldier liable, right? They sign the form that states they're not going to discuss this with the vendor, and they can't ask for a refund just because they failed to uphold their part of the contract. When they request CA, they do sign paperwork stating they understand these terms and conditions. So do not refund without a request from ACAPO. And I know sometimes it's hard because they'll tell you the reasons, and that, got it. They have to go through Army Ignited first. They must request a W from our team. And once they do, we'll add a W and we will allow them to provide their reasoning for withdrawal. Once that is approved, if there is time left on their, if they have like 7-8 months left of their 1 year, then I'm going to request a refund for the unused portion. If there is no time left, and there is a specific situation that deems them appropriate for withdrawal, I'm not going to ask for a refund, but I will give them the withdrawal or approve their withdrawal. But that is going to be determined by ACAPO and not by the vendor. So please do not just refund, because again, there is a process for these withdrawals, okay? There are also updates that are still coming. We are still, like I said earlier, we're still trying to get your ability to upload certificates of completion prior to the end date. That is, we're almost there, almost to where you'll be able to do that. I don't think we're there yet, but hopefully soon. I know that's a big thing for you all, but it's actually not a certificate of completion. It's a pass or fail. We have had vendors ask like, hey, can I send you all the certificates of completion so you can add the grades? And the answer is no. We are not going to do that. We don't have the time either to add grades. It is, again, per the MOA, it is your responsibility to add the grade into the AI portal. Or if you don't receive those results, then the soldier's responsibility to send us a message using the Credentialing Assistance Office category, attach those certificates of completion, and then we will add the grade at that point. If you have no ability to see because the end date has not passed, you will have to wait until that end date is passed. Same with those that are pending, they've already completed the course, they've asked for a whole year, I know, and it's terrible. We are trying to get you the ability to upload or give that grade as soon as possible, but it's just not here. So until that time, you will have to wait, as my team cannot stop to do all of those, as well as all of the, the current processes that they got going on that you all don't see, okay? Let me answer some of these questions real quick. Kevin Smith, what if If anything, can you do to stress soldiers, ACT, soldiers act on invoices given a timely manner? We often get to redo an invoice because a soldier sat on the document, took weeks to upload, and when they do, ACAPO rejects saying it's too old. Suggestions. I really don't have a suggestion for you, Kevin. You know, you can tell them that there's a expiration date, and you know they're going to have to resubmit. I'm sorry. I know that kind of sucks.
Well, no, I hear you. I mean, when the invoice goes out to the soldier, the same time, we've got a templated email that goes out that says, we see you've been given the invoice. Please act on this immediately, because if you don't submit it right away, it's going to get rejected. Okay. And probably 2 out of 10 have to be redone because God love them. They get caught up in their day or their week, and next thing you know, they tell us they rejected my invoice. Okay. So I know about how many times you can touch them, you know, in terms of not, you know, hassling a soldier, you know, that rule. So I'm trying to tread lightly and still try to avoid extra work by our invoicing team as these are coming through. But we'll just keep doing what we're doing and just try to stress that when we send out that reminder message, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yep.
Okay.
Thank you. Amanda asked, how do we confirm with the soldier that they have completed the withdrawal request in Army Ignited? Is there an official document service member can provide us that it is an approved withdrawal and eligible for refund? So Amanda, if it's a approved withdrawal and eligible for a refund, I will always send you an email requesting that refund, right? As far as, so that's the only thing you need to ask for, or you don't really need to ask the soldier for anything. If they submit it, I'm going to ask for that refund, or you can ask them like, did it get approved or not? And again, the second I respond to a soldier's withdrawal, if I approve it and there is funds that I will ask for, you will get the email. If not, you don't have to worry about it. We're not going to ask for it back. Naniel, I'm sorry. Please confirm that until March 28th, that the invoices currently in the vendor portal should not be processed. Instead, the vendor should wait for finance to call and process a credit card payment. So Sandy said the 27th, it'll start in the system. So yes, until that time, their team will contact you to make and process the payment. Okay. And then Sue, go ahead. I see your hand is up.
Good morning and thank you. A quick question. When Kevin was just referring to the invoice with the soldier and getting them to act on it, are we using the term invoice in this as an acronym for quote? Or did I miss something over the last several weeks? Because we've not been getting any requests from soldiers at all. I have no soldiers currently. I'm wondering if I missed something, if we're supposed to be providing something that's more of an invoice than a quote.
No, I'm so sorry. I don't want it to be confused, okay? We request quotes. Quotes are before they ever get paid. The invoice is only dealing with finance. Finance creates an invoice.
Okay.
Quotes are still to be provided to soldiers when they request custom quotes, or so that they can submit their CA request. It's always going to be a quote. Mm-hmm.
So we are not providing an invoice to soldiers.
Correct. You're just providing a quote.
My second question, Sophia, because that one came up afterwards. Really quickly, I hope, about this refund situation. Talking about withdrawals, and I understand soldiers would contact Army Ignited and ask for withdrawal. I have several soldiers right now who I am sort of struggling to work with because they have neither apparently contacted Army Ignited to ask for a withdrawal. They've just sort of let their course go. And I usually follow up several months before the end of their course. And I look and I'm kind of seeing what they're doing, and I start noticing they're not working in their course, and it's been a few months. So I reach out to them and I explain, I see your course is ending in, X time, and you've not worked in your class since whenever. I want to see if there's anything I can do to help, ask, request an extension, all that kind of stuff. But I'm concerned, I'm just concerned, as I explained to them, if they kind of don't fulfill their obligation with this course, that they're going to be potentially be recouped the money from the Department of Defense, from Army, Army CA, whatever. So am I doing, I guess I'm asking, am I doing kind of enough on my end to, or should I be adding to for example, one soldier was in South Korea and she hadn't worked in her course for the longest time, but she never contacted me or apparently you guys. And when I reached out to her, I finally got a hold of her, and we're scrambling to get her. I think we've got her squared away now with an extension, but it's one of those things where I'm just not sure if I'm doing everything I should be doing to make sure, or should I be maybe suggesting to soldiers, if you don't think you're going to be able to complete this and you don't feel like an extension is going to work, perhaps you should request a withdrawal. Can you kind of speak to that a little bit?
Sure. So I just want to clarify, I just want to make sure everyone understands. Soldiers sign, and so to start the process to even request CA, they must complete a virtual benefits training, letting them know what they can and cannot do with CA, right? The funds, all that good stuff. They are responsible to complete it within that time frame that they requested, or they will be recouped. If they fail a course or they they didn't finish it within that time frame, they're going to be recouped. It's their responsibility. They signed stating they understood that, those terms and conditions. Whether they read it or not, I can't help on that one. I mean, it's there for them. They have to sign it every single time. You can provide your warning, your helpful tips, and that's great. I think that's wonderful, Sue. But at the end of the day, it is the soldier's responsibility to either complete it or request their extension or withdraw. And if they withdraw, it must be a valid military or emergency reason why they need to withdraw, and that will be determined at that point.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure I was doing my due diligence plus in making sure these soldiers, and I knew they signed something, but like you said, we can't control whether they read it or not.
Right.
I would expect that perhaps the woman who's still in South Korea, if she wanted to withdraw, she could have. There could have been valid reasons because she's deployed and all that. So thank you. I just wanted to make sure I was doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and maybe that alleviates some of my guilt too, feelings of guilt about soldiers having to be recouped.
You are totally fine, Sue. Thank you so much for doing that.
Thank you.
Okay, so before we close up shop, our boss, he would like to give some remarks. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that over to Steve Clare.
Good morning, everyone. Great conversation, great session. I know we are all faced with, I hear your frustration and sometimes, anger with the process and anger with the system and all the changes. But here's what I will tell you. We are faced with a very complicated and complex way ahead with not only just credentialing assistance in the new system, but the new system in general as we compete for priorities within the programs. So I'm not providing you excuses. I'm not giving you excuses. I'm providing you some reality of where we are at and why oftentimes you might feel or assume that things aren't happening as quickly or the enhancements aren't happening as quickly as we all would like to see them for the program, making the process much easier for not only you and not only us, but also for the soldier. So as requirements come in, like we got a lot of great feedback from this session. So what happens, it is my responsibility to take all the issues for the credentialing program as it relates to the vendors and the system and the queues and the process. Sophia and I rack and stack those things during sprint cycles with the vendor. But this is one of 4 programs that are competing for priority of work, priority of enhancements, bugs, and fixes, and what the sprint cycle entails as far as who gets priority of enhancements and functionality within the system. I will tell you that the civilian counterparts, ACMA, has a large, has the lion's share of this sprint cycle coming up and the next one. And also the GFIBS process for tuition assistance has been made a high priority. So we attempt to rattle cages and stand on the table and put our most priority efforts forward. But we have to compete with tuition assistance. We have to compete with Cadet Command. We have to compete with the civilians and all the bugs and defects that have been identified as we transition into the Air Force model for this system. So, like I said, it's just transparency from me to you. And I want to assure you that we do everything that we can to make your voices heard and our voices heard when we go through the sprint cycles and try to get things into the system that can benefit all of us. So appreciate the comments and the feedback. And I know I have a hard stop here at 10 o'clock. So really appreciate your time. And if there's anything that you think isn't being addressed, that is not being fair and equitable, please reach out to me and we can have a conversation in further detail if you would like to. So Sophia, thanks for the time. Great session. Sandy, thank you. Russell, thank you. All the folks in the chat answering questions, asking questions. At the end of the day, it's just going to make this program and this process even better. So thanks for your time.
Thank you, Steve. And at this point, we do have a hard stop. A few of us have to be in meetings. So really appreciate your attendance, your understanding and cooperation. We know this isn't easy for you all, but really appreciate you, doing your best to try to help the soldier and to work with us through these processes. So we do have another session this afternoon. If you'd like to join, please feel free to do that. That should still be on the email that Russell sent out. Thank you all very much. Have a great day.
Thank you kindly. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, folks. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you, guys.